Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of 101 Guitar Lessons. My name is Lauren, and I'm joined by my friend Paul. Say hi, Paul.
How you doing? Hi, Paul.
Hi, Paul. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to demonstrate what it's like to jam with another person. I know when you're just starting to learn how to play, you're just starting to get maybe some basic scales under your fingers, some chords, and you're wondering, how do I actually make music with this? And how do I make music with this with another musician? So we're going to do it super simple. Paul and I have known each other for a very long time, but we have not played together in many years. And that's not an exaggeration. So it'll be interesting. We're coming from different musical backgrounds and styles and approaches, so it'll be kind of cool. We're going to keep it simple, but we'll see what happens. This is completely unplanned, and we'll dissect it afterwards so that you understand kind of the approach that we were taking, what we were thinking, and hopefully it sounds sort of like music.
Sounds good to me.
Right.
Are you starting or am I starting?
I'll start with a little groove, okay?
Okay.
So my phone started ringing in my pocket, and my ringer is the solo to Stairway to Heaven. So that started going off in the middle, which completely threw me off. But anyway, I think that was cool. That was fun. So what did we do? Well, I guess we decided that I was going to start with the groove, so I just sort of started with the groove. And there it is again. Let me shut this off. All right.
Good job, phone.
Yeah, I know. You know what? Give me a second. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, we're back. Sorry about that edit. Here's my phone, so I'll give you a little insight as to what was going on. I had like a flood in my basement, and I had a guy coming over to come and take a look at it. He called me. Of course, as I said, the ringer was the solo to Stairway to Heaven. It started vibrating in my leg and ringing out Stairway to Heaven, so you may hear that in the microphone or not. I don't know. But that threw me off completely. And then we ended the jam, and I had to make a cut to go and let the guy in, fix the flood, and we're done. Okay, back to where we're at. Okay, so some insight into Lauren's life. So let's talk about the jam itself. So I started this groove, and it was basically, I wasn't thinking it, and it wasn't a song that we know, we just made it up on the spot.
Right.
I was doing like a D minor pentatonic thing in 4th position here. Right? So I was just doing like a... So that one extra note on the 5th fret, because the 4th position is this. That's the extra note that belongs in the minor scale, not just the pentatonic scale. So I added that for a melodic value. And then we went into a D minor 7, A minor, G, and we kind of just went back and forth and different variations because there was no plan, right? We just sort of felt it, and wherever it went, and we kind of made like a verse, just vamping on a D and a little bit of the A, and then the chorus kind of, I guess, would be like a D, A minor, G thing, and then we just kind of felt our way through it. And you took a solo, and why don't you talk about kind of your perspective and when I started that kind of groove, what you were thinking?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, we haven't played in a very long time.
Very long time.
It's probably been. Okay, so I'll take you back for a second. So we've known each other for a very long time, Lauren and I, and we used to play a lot when we were both in high school. We didn't go to the same high school, but we sure put in a lot of hours, and we went in different directions. I think Lauren kind of stayed went further, deeper into the blues, kind of a rock space. I branched off into the R&B kind of world and a few other styles, but basically that kind of thing. And so I just want to say this is really cool to play with you again, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a ton of fun.
So with this jam, Lauren started out, and he was kind of arpeggiating. He was like playing like individual notes in the chords, doing a good job with that. And what I was thinking or feeling was, what genre are we in, and what key are we in? So figuring out what key we're in and kind of what genre we're in, I know that it's kind of like a bouncing 8th note, kind of not quite R&B, but I know it's in 4/4 time, and I know I can stamp my foot to it, that kind of thing. So
yeah, it was kind of like a funky R&B kind of groove.
Kind of, yeah, exactly. It was a feel good. So rubber stamp. So, anyways, back to our story. So I kind of picked up on that, and once I picked up on that, then we continued to play with that a little bit, and I think Lauren threw in an A minor 7 and a G major in there, and then I started to do the same thing, and eventually I took a solo, and I just kind of stayed within the chord structure of that a little bit more like with the starting chord of that.
The D minor.
The D minor, the
key
tonic,
center, basically.
The tonic, the diatonic, kind of, just kind of like stay in my lane a little bit.
So let's just expand on that for a second,
Sure.
Because we have a lot of beginners and like intermediate players coming in. So really, the gravity of the sound was mainly around the D minor chord, and we spent a lot of time on the D minor chord, and that really established a D minor kind of landscape. A soundscape, if you will.
Feel free.
Yeah. So Paul took that and flew with that, right?
Right. And so yes, we just start with basically one chord, and you added a couple more, and so I copied you a little bit, and from there I started to take on the backgrounds a little bit, and then you started to feel comfortable with me not just so much adding some backgrounds, but now starting to take the pulse, the rhythm of what we were doing. And I think that led to a visceral feeling of Lauren thinking, okay, Paul's now taken over, and I am going to do something a layer above what Paul is doing now, which is holding the backgrounds, and I'm going to take a solo. So I think you started to take a solo.
And that's when the phone started ringing.
And that's when the phone started to ring. It was long distance. He's got pen pals. Anyways, he's a popular guy, right? Listen, look at this face. Yeah, there you go. And I think from that point on, I started to add my own embellishments a little bit too. In the end, I started to add some other voicings in there, which were at the beginner level, so I won't go into too much talk about fancy talk. And then I started to add another genre. I took the backgrounds a little bit away while he is just smooth with all the scales and all that kind of stuff. Really, really cool stuff. I started to try to make it more interesting underneath what he's doing. So we went from that kind of funky thing to a dub style, that kind of like.
Oh yeah, that rhythmic.
Kind of a dub kind of a thing. And then he started to copy me a little bit with that, and we started to kind of emulate each other. And then from there, like maybe one bar up before we ended it, I started just a straight kind of a reggae kind of a feel. I was going to do other things, but I felt he wanted to end it. Like, enough, that's it. You're starting to get too worldly. I don't know what it is. I'm kidding.
It was the second call that came because
it was the second.
We survived the first call. The guy was standing at the door. Yeah. We didn't hear the door. Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, we got through this. Guy. Now we can just get back into the music. And you went into that rhythmic thing, which I loved. I thought it was great. Yeah. And then he called again because obviously he's standing at the door. I'm like, okay, we got to end this, and I got to answer the door.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So he's a very responsible man, and he had to take care of his business. So anyway, so bottom line is that's how I felt about it. And then we did a retard. We did a like a slowing down, and then we did a longer note at the end, like a pause note. This fancy talk here. And then we went to go see the plumber. So that's basically it.
So yes, that was great. Great explanation, great rundown. And yeah, so what was happening was I kind of started it off. Paul layered kind of underneath what I was doing, and then I held it down, and he went on top of it with some really melodic phrasing, some solos. It was great. And then came in and took over on the rhythm, holding it down like you described, and then I kind of ventured off, and you put your own little flavor on the changes. All the while, we kind of stayed close to a recognizable sort of theme, right? Yeah. So that's what grounded it, because it can't just be random all the time. We have to sort of land on this theme, rhythmic theme and melodic theme, and we kind of came back to it, but you took it in your own direction. And then when you went into that rhythmic thing, it was cool, and I picked up on that and tried to emulate it with like these double stops, we'll call them dyads, if you will, sort of 2-note chord stabs. And really all I'm doing there is going through like the D minor pentatonic. Well, I guess I'm doing a little more than that. But I'm going through basically like a D minor pentatonic and just playing. Now this is that interval going through mainly kind of like a C major, so D Dorian if you want to get super fancy, but don't worry about that nonsense.
You can just fancy.
Yeah, I like fancy too. But I'm picking up on that, and we're feeding off each other. It's a conversation. Bottom line is it's going back and forth. I started the conversation. Paul came in, we're talking about the same kind of topic, and then he's putting in his input in it, and I'm kind of going with him, and it's like back and forth. So when you're jamming, it's a musical conversation. You have to listen, and when we ended it, see, Paul could sense that I was ending it because the dynamic was changing, right? We were bringing it down, and that's the most important thing. You know, when people have a musical conversation, or any conversation in general, sometimes all you want to do is say what is in the back of your head, and you stop listening to the person who's actually talking, and they just become like this, wah, 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 let me say what I have to say, right? Same thing musically. Sometimes you're like, oh, I got this really cool idea, I just want to play it, but you're ignoring what the other person is saying musically. So you want to try to avoid that as much as possible. Actually open up your ears and listen to what's going on. There are going to be flubs. You know, it wasn't perfect, and that's not about being perfect. It's about having a conversation, right? Going back and forth and listening, and sometimes you talk over each other, and sometimes one's listening and the other person is talking, and vice versa. But the levels, energy's picking up, it's coming down. That dynamic, when we kind of went into that energetic thing, and then I was bringing it down, whatever we were doing there. And then I ran to the plumber. So yeah, that's basically how you jam. Is mainly, I would say, if we could break it down into simplistic terms, it's a musical conversation. You want to listen, you want to develop. One person develops a theme, let's say, the other person picks up on it and adds to it, and then you have that flow back and forth, and you can take it into different places. Mm-hmm. You say that's fairly accurate?
I would say it's very accurate. I'd say that's wise, is comparing it to conversation, because you can't have a fun and energetic and wonderful and memorable conversation if you're not listening. There's only one person that can speak and one person that can listen at the same time. And how do you do that when you're playing? It's, well, you listen first and then you contribute second. So the way I look at it, my mindset is how can I serve this? I'm not trying to cut him off.
And take over and...
Yeah, I'm not trying to compete with him.
No.
I'm trying to commune with him. And the way that I do that is I do less rather than more. So I think when we were younger...
Especially at the start, right?
Especially at the start, but sometimes in the middle too, because one thing we didn't talk about is we didn't talk about dynamic contrast. We lowered our volume about 50%, and we were both listening to each other. And at that moment, we didn't really need to do a whole lot in order to continue to carry the musical conversation. Carrying the musical conversation, I think, to me and probably to you, because I've known you for such a long time, is being satisfied with what you're doing, being happy with what you're doing, and collaborating with the other person, I think in a relaxed, I would like to say, in a relaxed and kind of artistic way, right? So we both knew we don't really have to do a whole lot in order to make this jam work, in order to have fun. We don't have to throw everything that we know. We don't have to try to play as fast as we can.
We don't have to impress each other.
We don't have to impress each other. Yeah. So my takeaway is I'm not trying to compete. I'm trying to commune.
Yeah, I think that's great. Very well said. We're adding to the music. Okay, it's all about whatever we're creating here, and there's no competition. That's the thing that a lot of people fall into, especially when they're first starting, like you were about to say when we were younger.
Yeah.
You know, when you learn something new, it's exciting and you want to show everybody that you know how to do it. So let me do it and do it and do it again and again.
Until they say, shut up!
Yeah, exactly. So, it's not about that now. You get a certain level of maturity where you just want to play and add to the groove and the feel and the experience, right?
Yeah. And I think that growing, well, Lauren is kind of touching on that growth piece of the way when you start and as you progress, if I'm reading this right, is important and natural. We started when we were about 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That's about right.
Yep.
Yeah. We went to the same day camp or overnight camp. Day camp. We were counselors at day camp, by the way. But anyways, we went to the same overnight camp and we noticed that people were playing the guitar. And I think so somehow we just, we met there and we figured out, made a decision somehow without really being really good friends at the time, but we turned into that. This is what we want to do.
Yeah, these guys look cool.
These guys are playing and they're getting all the attention.
Yeah.
Right? And
when you're a shy 14-year-old,
we want some of that. We want some of that. I think I had short hair, you had long hair, and now I'm
we're
the other way
reversed.
around. Yeah. So, but I'm taking a walk down memory lane, and we're going off on a tangent here. But when we were younger, we would do all of the things that we're preaching to you guys about. Hopefully not doing for the rest of your lives, which is trying to do more. Trying to do more. As soon as we learn a song, we suddenly want to show it off to each other, and we want to read that tablature, and we want to achieve, but we weren't. I'd probably say as collaborative as we just showed now, and it shows. It also shows, by the way, that with that kind of attitude while you're learning, that kind of mindset, is that it doesn't matter how much time goes by with somebody that you haven't played with in a long time. We just proved that we probably haven't played in probably maybe 3 or 4 years, if not more.
Oh, it's a lot more than that. I mean,
I'm being conservative.
So I remember the last time we played, it was literally for 5 minutes or 10 minutes at your place that one time a couple of years ago.
Okay.
But before that, we're talking decades. Right? It was maybe 15 years.
At least, I'm going to say at least 8 years.
Yeah, so really at that 5 or 10 minutes, that doesn't really count.
That's true. Yeah.
But I think what you said, let me just give you permission to overplay as a beginning guitar player, because
Yes.
everybody does. It's okay, and you get excited, and you want to get it under your fingers, and that's cool. It's natural, but know that that's not the goal. The goal is to really get past that by doing it a lot. get past that
by doing and by answering the phone to see the plumber.
Yes, exactly.
Things like that.
And then you'll eventually get to a point where you're comfortable with yourself and your ability, and you just want to get past that, get out of yourself and into the music. And thank you for being amazing musician-wise and to explain things in such a great way. And it was a lot of fun. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful. Some insight into how to jam with somebody and create some music out of nothing, really.
Yeah.
Just some common knowledge and listening to each other.
Thanks very much for having me.
All right, buddy. We'll see you guys on the next lesson. Remember to check out the suggested videos wherever they pop up on the screen. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the section down below. Before we go, Paul, you have a YouTube channel. It's not music related, but go ahead.
Oh, well, thank you very much for the opportunity to plug. Yes, I have a YouTube channel as well. I make children's books, and I also make short books for adults as well, too. You can check it out. Go to YouTube and just search for Sensei Publishing, and I will pop up, and I hope to see you there. Thanks very much.
I'll put the link on the screen or in the description, one or the other. Cool. You'll be able to find it somewhere. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the next lesson.
See ya. Bye, Mr. Plumber.